In the quiet office of a Silicon Valley tech giant, CEO Nathan Reeves receives a disturbing alert. Someone is secretly entering his office. At first, it seems trivial, but with billions in company secrets at stake, Nathan realizes the game is far bigger than it appears. Who is behind the betrayal? And is he ready to sacrifice everything to uncover the truth? Secrets, intrigue, and moral dilemmas unfold in a story where justice comes at a cost. San Francisco, 2025. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the glassy towers of Silicon Valley. Nathan Reeves, the 38-year-old CEO of Quantum Innovations, stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of his corner office on the 42nd floor. His sharp gray eyes traced the city's skyline, but his mind was elsewhere. Quantum, a titan in quantum computing, was on the verge of unveiling a breakthrough that could redefine energy production. Billions hung in the balance, and Nathan felt the weight of it all. He ran a hand through his dark hair, loosening his tie. The office was silent, save for the faint hum of servers in the data center far below. Then came a knock, sharp, insistent. Ethan Clark, his 40-year-old deputy and lifelong friend, strode in without waiting for an invitation. Ethan's blonde hair was slightly disheveled, and his blue eyes burned with urgency. "Nate, we've got a problem," Ethan said, tossing a tablet onto the mahogany desk. "Someone's been in your office after hours." Nathan frowned, picking up the tablet. "What are you talking about?" "Security would have flagged it. Not if it's someone with access." Ethan leaned forward, his voice low. "The cleaning crew. Specifically, Marta Gray, 55, been here 3 months. I got a tip from one of the night guards. She's been seen lingering in here when everyone's gone." Nathan's brow furrowed. Marta Gray. He vaguely recalled her, a quiet woman with silver-streaked hair, always pushing a cart, her eyes downcast. She blended into the background, invisible, like the hum of the air conditioning. "Lingering? Ethan, she's a cleaner. It's her job to be in here." Ethan scoffed, crossing his arms. "Come on, Nate. You think it's a coincidence? We're sitting on tech that could tank entire industries. Competitors would kill to get their hands on our data. And you're telling me a cleaner poking around your office isn't suspicious?" Nathan leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking. Ethan had always been the paranoid one, the guy who saw conspiracies in every shadow. But Nathan prided himself on trust. He built Quantum by believing in people, his team, his vision. Still, Ethan's words gnawed at him. What if he was right? The stakes were too high for blind faith. "All right," Nathan said, exhaling. "Let's say she's up to something. What's she after? My stapler? The leftover donuts in the break room?" Ethan's lips twitched, but his expression stayed grim. "Your laptop. Your files. The specs for Project Helix. You keep that stuff in here, Nate. If someone's sniffing around, they're not looking for snacks." Nathan's jaw tightened. Project Helix was Quantum's crown jewel, a quantum catalyst that could slash energy costs globally. The prototype was still in testing, but leaks could cripple the company. He thought of Marta again, her quiet presence. Once, he'd caught her staring at him in the hallway, her eyes sharp and unreadable. It had unsettled him, though he brushed it off. Now, that moment felt like a warning. "Okay," Nathan said, his voice steady but laced with unease. "We'll check it out. But we do this quietly. No witch hunts." Ethan nodded, a glint of triumph in his eyes. "I'll get security to pull the logs. But we need eyes in here. Cameras. Tonight." Nathan hesitated. Installing cameras felt like a betrayal of the open culture he'd fostered at Quantum. But the thought of a breach, of secrets slipping into the wrong hands, overrode his doubts. "Fine. Get it done. But only in my office. And keep it off the main system. I don't want this leaking to the staff." By midnight, a discreet security team had rigged 2 hidden cameras, one in the corner above Nathan's desk, another near the door. The lenses were invisible, tucked into the sleek modern decor. Nathan stood alone in the office, staring at the spot where Marta had allegedly lingered. His reflection in the window looked older, lines of stress carving deeper into his face. He shook his head, locking the door behind him. Tomorrow, he'd know the truth. The next morning, Nathan arrived at dawn, his coffee cold in his hand. Ethan was already in the office, hunched over a laptop, the camera footage queued up. "You're gonna want to see this," Ethan said, his voice tight. Nathan sat beside him, his pulse quickening. The screen showed his office, timestamped 10:47 p.m. the previous night. The door opened, and Marta Gray stepped in, her cart rattling softly. She moved methodically, wiping down surfaces, her movements precise. But then she stopped at Nathan's desk. She glanced around. Once, twice, then reached into her apron pocket. "What the hell?" Nathan muttered, leaning closer. Marta pulled out a small glass vial, its contents shimmering faintly in the dim light. She unscrewed the cap and sprinkled a fine powder over the desk, her lips moving as if whispering. Then, from another pocket, she drew a single feather, black, glossy, like a raven's. She waved it over the desk in slow, deliberate arcs, her face intense, almost reverent. Nathan's stomach churned. "Is that some kind of ritual?" Ethan's face was pale. "Ritual? Nate, that's not cleaning. I don't know what that is. But it's not normal." The footage continued. Marta finished her strange ceremony, tucked the vial and feather away, and resumed cleaning as if nothing had happened. She left the office at 11:02 p.m., the cart's wheels squeaking faintly. The screen went dark. Nathan sat back, his mind racing. What's she doing? Sabotage? Espionage? Or is she just eccentric? Eccentric? Ethan snapped, slamming the laptop shut. "She's got access to your office, Nate. Your files, your plans. And she's pulling this voodoo crap? We need to confront her. Now." Nathan held up a hand, his voice firm. "No, we don't know enough. If she's a spy, we can't tip her off. If she's not, we risk ruining an innocent woman's life. We need more." Ethan's jaw clenched, but he nodded. "Fine, but we're not letting this slide. I'll dig into her file, background, references, everything. And we need to test her." "Test her?" Nathan raised an eyebrow. "A trap," Ethan said, a sly edge to his voice. "We leave something tempting in your office. Something she can't resist if she's up to no good. Say, a flash drive labeled Helix Specs. See if she takes the bait." Nathan's gut twisted. The idea felt manipulative, but the image of Marta's feather lingered in his mind, unsettling and inexplicable. He nodded slowly. "All right, but we do this my way. Clean, careful. And Ethan? Not a word to anyone." As Ethan left to set the plan in motion, Nathan stood and walked to his desk. He ran a hand over the surface, half expecting to feel traces of that strange powder. There was nothing, just polished wood, cold under his fingers. But the air felt heavier now, charged with secrets. Marta Gray was no longer just a cleaner. She was a question mark, a shadow moving through his world. And Nathan knew, deep down, that answering that question would change everything. That evening, Nathan stayed late, watching the live feed from his office. The trap was set, a flash drive, labeled in bold, sat on his desk. His heart pounded as the door creaked open. Marta stepped in, her cart rattling. She paused, her eyes locking onto the drive. For a moment, Nathan thought she'd take it. But then, to his shock, another figure slipped into the frame. Emily Ross, his 28-year-old secretary, her face pale and furtive. She grabbed the drive and stuffed it into her pocket, casting a nervous glance at Marta. Nathan's breath caught. The game had just begun. The fluorescent lights of Quantum Innovation's 42nd floor office buzzed faintly, casting stark shadows across Nathan Reeves' desk. The CEO sat rigid, his eyes glued to the live feed from the hidden cameras. His pulse hammered as he watched Emily Ross, his trusted 28-year-old secretary, slip the decoy flash drive labeled Helix Specs into her pocket. Marta Gray, the enigmatic cleaner, stood nearby, oblivious, continuing her strange ritual with the feather and powder. Nathan's mind reeled. Emily? The betrayal stung deeper than he'd expected. He leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking under his weight. The office felt claustrophobic, the air thick with suspicion. Ethan Clark burst in, his face a storm of indignation. "Did you see that?" he hissed, pointing at the now-dark screen. "Your secretary's a thief, Nate. And Marta's still doing her witchy nonsense. We've got a nest of snakes in here." Nathan rubbed his temples, trying to quell the headache blooming behind his eyes. "Emily's been with me for 3 years," he said, his voice low. "She's got access to everything, schedules, contracts. If she's dirty, we're in deeper trouble than I thought." Ethan paced, his boots scuffing the polished floor. "And Marta? You still think she's just eccentric? She's got to be in on it. Why else is she waving feathers around your desk like some shaman?" Nathan's jaw tightened. He wanted to believe Marta was harmless, a quirk of human nature in a sterile corporate world. But the footage, her deliberate movements, the whispered words, gnawed at him. And now Emily's actions had shattered his trust in his inner circle. "We need answers," he said, standing. But we're not storming in guns blazing. We set another trap. This time, we watch both of them. Ethan's eyes narrowed. A predator sizing up prey. I like it. Let's up the stakes. Plant something bigger, say, a dummy file on your laptop, labeled Helix Prototype. Lock it with a traceable code. If either of them bites, we'll know who's leaking what. Nathan nodded, though his stomach churned. Deception wasn't his style, but the stakes were too high for hesitation. Project Helix was Quantum's future, and he'd be damned if he let it slip away. Do it. And get Jack Murphy in here. I want security on this 24/7. By noon, the trap was set. Nathan's laptop, left carelessly open on his desk, displayed a file marked Helix Prototype Confidential. The file was a decoy, rigged to ping Jack Murphy's team the moment it was accessed. Nathan and Ethan holed up in a secure server room, watching the camera feed on a monitor. The air was thick with tension, the only sound the faint were of cooling fans. Think they'll go for it? Ethan asked, cracking his knuckles. They better, Nathan muttered. I'm done playing nice. The clock ticked past 6 p.m. The office emptied, the last employees trickling out. Then, at 7:13 p.m., the door to Nathan's office creaked open. Marta entered, her cart rattling softly. She moved with the same methodical precision, wiping surfaces, her silver hair glinting under the lights. She paused at the desk, her eyes flicking to the laptop. Nathan held his breath, but Marta didn't touch it. Instead, she pulled out her vial and feather, repeating her cryptic ritual. The powder sparkled as it fell, and her lips moved in a silent chant. She's taunting us, Ethan growled. She knows we're watching. Or she's just doing whatever this is, Nathan said, though doubt crept into his voice. Marta's actions felt too deliberate, too purposeful. But for what? Then, at 7:28 p.m., the door opened again. Emily Ross slipped in, her movements jerky, her eyes darting nervously. She froze when she saw Marta, who didn't look up from her cleaning. Emily hesitated, then edged toward the desk. Her fingers hovered over the laptop, trembling. She tapped a key, and the screen lit up. Nathan's phone buzzed, a notification from Jack. The file had been accessed. Got her, Ethan whispered, a triumphant edge to his voice. But Nathan's relief was short-lived. On the feed, Emily glanced at Marta, who was now staring directly at her. The cleaner's face was unreadable, her eyes sharp as knives. Emily flinched, muttered something, and bolted from the room, the flash drive still in her pocket. Marta watched her go, then resumed cleaning as if nothing had happened. Nathan's heart sank. What the hell was that? Are they working together? Ethan shook his head. Or Marta spooked her. Either way, Emily's our leak. We confront her tomorrow. No, Nathan said sharply. We need more. Emily's scared. Did you see her face? Something's off. And Marta, she's not acting like a spy. We dig deeper. The next morning, Nathan called Jack Murphy, Quantum's grizzled 50-year-old head of security, into his office. Jack's weathered face was all business as he sat across from Nathan, a notepad in hand. You've got a mess, Reeves, he said, his voice gravelly. What do you need? Everything on Marta Gray and Emily Ross, Nathan said. Background, connections, anything that explains what's going on. And I want it discreet. No leaks. Jack nodded, jotting notes. Gray's a ghost. Hired 3 months ago, transferred from our Seattle branch. Ross has been here longer, but her file's clean. Too clean, if you ask me. I'll get my team on it. Anything else? Check their communications, Ethan cut in. Emails, phones, socials. If they're passing data, there's a trail. Jack raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. Give me 48 hours. As Jack left, Nathan's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Be careful who you trust. Your office isn't safe. His blood ran cold. He showed it to Ethan, whose face darkened. Someone's playing games, Ethan said. We need to lock this down. Nathan didn't respond. His mind was on Marta's ritual, Emily's trembling hands, and now this cryptic warning. He felt like a pawn in a chess game he didn't understand. That evening, he drove to the edge of San Francisco, tailing Marta's battered Toyota from a distance. She pulled into a derelict warehouse district, parking near a rusted gate. Nathan watched as she stepped out, clutching a small bag, and disappeared into an alley. His hands gripped the steering wheel. Every instinct screamed to follow her, but fear held him back. What was she doing? And who had sent that text? The city's lights glittered in the distance, but Nathan felt trapped in a shadow he couldn't escape. Back at the office, Jack called with a bombshell. Marta Gray's not just a cleaner, he said, his voice tense. She's ex-CIA, worked undercover in tech espionage 20 years ago. And Emily? Her bank accounts got deposits from an offshore shell company. They're linked, Nathan. But to what? I don't know yet. Nathan's world tilted. Marta, a spy? Emily, a traitor? The trap had caught something, but it was bigger and darker than he'd ever imagined. Nathan Reeves sat in the dimly lit server room of Quantum Innovations, the hum of cooling fans a stark contrast to the chaos in his mind. The revelation from Jack Murphy, the head of security, echoed like a gunshot. Marta Gray, the enigmatic cleaner, was a former CIA operative with a history in tech espionage. Emily Ross, his trusted secretary, had unexplained deposits in her account, tied to an offshore shell company. Nathan's office, once a sanctuary, now felt like a battlefield where trust was the first casualty. He stared at the frozen camera footage on the monitor, Marta's piercing gaze as Emily fled with the decoy flash drive. Ethan Clark, pacing behind him, broke the silence. CIA? Offshore accounts? Nate, this isn't just a leak. It's a goddamn conspiracy. We need to haul them both in now. Nathan's hands clenched into fists. And then what? Scare them into covering their tracks? We don't know who's pulling the strings. Marta's ritual, Emily's panic, none of it adds up. We need to understand the game before we make a move. Ethan's blue eyes flashed with frustration. You're too soft, Nate. This is Project Helix we're talking about. Billions. If they're selling us out, every second we wait is a second they're winning. Nathan stood, his voice sharp. I'm not soft. I'm careful. We've got 2 suspects, a cryptic text warning me my office isn't safe, and no idea who's behind it. Rushing in blind gets us nowhere. He paused, his gaze drifting to the monitor. But you're right about one thing. We can't wait forever. We tail Marta. Tonight. Ethan's lips curled into a grim smile. Now you're talking. Let's see what our spy is hiding. That evening, Nathan and Ethan parked a block from Marta's last known location, a rundown warehouse district on San Francisco's outskirts. The air was thick with the scent of salt and rust, the bay's fog curling around streetlights. Marta's battered Toyota was parked near a chain-link fence, its driver's door ajar. Nathan's heart pounded as he spotted her silhouette slipping into an alley, a small black bag slung over her shoulder. Stay sharp, Ethan whispered, checking the GPS tracker Jack had planted on Marta's car. If she's ex-CIA, she'll spot a tail a mile away. They moved silently, keeping to the shadows. The alley led to a derelict storage building, its windows boarded up. Nathan's breath hitched as Marta disappeared through a side door. He signaled Ethan to wait, his hand hovering over the door's rusted handle. Every instinct screamed danger, but curiosity and desperation pushed him forward. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with dust. Dim light filtered through cracks in the walls, illuminating stacks of crates and old filing cabinets. Nathan and Ethan crept forward, their footsteps muffled by years of grime. In a corner, Marta knelt beside a crate, her bag open. She pulled out a leather-bound book, its pages yellowed, and a small notebook. Her hands moved quickly, scribbling something as she muttered under her breath. What's she doing? Ethan hissed, crouching behind a crate. That's no cleaning manual. Nathan's eyes narrowed. Marta's movements were precise, almost frantic, as if racing against time. She flipped through the book, pausing at a page marked with red ink, then jotted more notes. Suddenly, she froze, her head snapping up. Nathan's pulse spiked, she'd sensed them. He grabbed Ethan's arm, pulling him deeper into the shadows just as Marta's gaze swept the room. For an agonizing moment, silence hung like a blade. Then Marta relaxed, returning to her task. She slipped the book and notebook back into her bag, stood, and left the building, her footsteps echoing in the empty space. Nathan exhaled, his shirt damp with sweat. That was too close, he whispered. We need to know what's in that book. Ethan nodded, his face pale. She's not just a spy. She's hunting something. Or someone. Back at Quantum, Nathan couldn't shake the image of Marta's intense focus. He called Jack Murphy, who arrived at dawn with a preliminary report. The 50-year-old security chief's gravelly voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed unease. Marta Gray's real name is Margaret Grayson, he said, sliding a folder across Nathan's desk. Ex-CIA, retired 15 years ago after a classified op in Silicon Valley. She went off the grid, then resurfaced as a cleaner. Her transfer to Quantum came from Sarah Wilson, an HR manager in Seattle. Wilson's clean, but her approval was rushed, no standard checks. Nathan flipped through the folder, his stomach knotting. And Emily? Ross is a different story, Jack said. Those deposits, $50,000 over 6 months, traced to a shell company in the Caymans. No direct link to Quantum, but the timing's suspicious. She's been accessing your files, Nate. Not just the decoy. Real stuff. Helix schematics, investor lists. Nathan's chest tightened. Emily, with her quick smile and meticulous notes, had been his rock. The betrayal cut deep. Any connection between her and Marta? Not yet, Jack admitted. But I'm digging. Marta's past suggests she's not here by accident. And that text you got? Burner phone, untraceable. Someone's watching you. Ethan, leaning against the wall, snorted. Great. So we've got a rogue spy, a crooked secretary, and a ghost texting us. What's next, Nate? We sit and wait for them to rob us blind. Nathan ignored the jab, his mind racing. Marta's CIA history could explain her ritual, some kind of surveillance technique. Maybe. But Emily's deposits pointed to greed, not espionage. In that book, it was the key. He turned to Jack. I want that warehouse searched. Discreetly. And get me everything on Sarah Wilson. If she fast-tracked Marta, she's part of this. Jack nodded and left, his boots clicking on the polished floor. Nathan turned to Ethan. We need to talk to Emily. Not confront. Just probe. If she's scared, we can use that. Ethan's eyes gleamed. I'll handle it. She trusts me. One coffee break, and I'll know if she's lying. The next day, Ethan cornered Emily in the break room, his charm dialed to 11. Nathan watched from his office, the camera feed open on his laptop. Emily's hand shook as she stirred her coffee, her laugh forced. Ethan leaned in, casual. You seem stressed, Em. Everything okay? I mean, with all the late nights Nate's been pulling, I bet you're swamped. Emily's smile faltered. It's just work. You know how it is. Her eyes darted to the door, as if expecting someone. Ethan pressed gently. Sure, but if something's up, you can tell me. We're a team, right? For a moment, Nathan thought she'd crack. But Emily stood abruptly, spilling her coffee. I've got to go. Reports to file. She fled, leaving Ethan staring after her. She's hiding something, Ethan said later, bursting into Nathan's office. She's terrified. But of what? Marta? Someone else? Nathan didn't answer. His phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. Look closer. The truth is in the past. His blood ran cold. The past. His brother, David Reeves, a quantum chemist who'd vanished after a scandal 5 years ago. Nathan had buried those memories, but now they clawed their way back. Had Marta known David? Was that why she was here? That night, Nathan dug through old boxes in his apartment, unearthing a book David had given him, a worn copy of Quantum Frontiers. Tucked inside was a note in David's scrawl. If you're lost, find Margaret. She knows the way. Nathan's heart stopped. Margaret Grayson. Marta. The cleaner wasn't just a spy, she was tied to his brother's secrets. And now, Nathan was certain, the key to quantum survival lay in unraveling her past. Nathan Reeves sat alone in his office, the city skyline a blur beyond the window. The note from his brother David, found in the old book, burned in his mind. If you're lost, find Margaret. She knows the way. Margaret Grayson, Marta Gray, the cleaner whose cryptic rituals and CIA past had turned Nathan's world upside down. The realization that she was tied to David's vanished life as a quantum chemist shook Nathan to his core. Was she an ally, a threat, or something else entirely? And what did Emily Ross, his compromised secretary, know about it all? The air in Quantum Innovations' 42nd floor office felt heavy, charged with betrayal. Ethan Clark stormed in, his face a mask of urgency. Nate, Jack just called. That warehouse Marta visited? It's a dead end, empty crates, no book, no nothing. But he found something else. A burner phone, ditched in a dumpster nearby. It's being traced. But guess what? It matches the number that texted you. Nathan's stomach lurched. The cryptic messages, be careful who you trust, and the truth is in the past, were no coincidence. Someone was orchestrating this, pulling strings from the shadows. What about Emily? He asked, his voice tight. Any movement? Ethan's eyes darkened. She's been jumpy all day. Skipped lunch, keeps checking her phone. I say we bring her in. Nate. Crack her before she bolts. Nathan shook his head, his mind racing. Emily's fear, Marta's rituals, David's note. It was a puzzle with too many missing pieces. Confronting Emily now risked tipping off whoever was behind her. Not yet, he said. We need leverage. I'm talking to Marta. Today. Ethan's jaw dropped. You're kidding. She's ex-CIA, Nate. She'll eat you alive. Maybe, Nathan said, standing. But if she knew David, she's the key. I need to know what she's protecting or hiding. At 3 p.m., Nathan summoned Marta to his office. She entered quietly, her silver hair pulled back, her gray eyes weary but sharp. The cleaning cart was gone, replaced by a quiet dignity that made Nathan second-guess his suspicions. He gestured to a chair. "Sit, please, Miss Gray. Or should I say Miss Grayson?" Marta's face didn't flinch, but her shoulders stiffened. "You've done your homework," she said, her voice low and steady. She sat, folding her hands. "What do you want to know, Mr. Reeves?" Nathan leaned forward, his gaze locked on hers. "You knew my brother, David. You worked with him on quantum catalysts. Now you're here, in my office, pulling some ritual with powder and feathers. I want the truth. Why are you here? And what does it have to do with quantum?" For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy as fog. Marta's eyes softened, a flicker of pain crossing her face. "David was more than a colleague," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "He was a mentor, a visionary. We were close to a breakthrough catalyst that could have powered cities cleanly, cheaply. But someone betrayed us. Data was stolen, sold to a rival firm. David left to protect what was left of his work. I stayed to find the traitor." Nathan's chest tightened. "And you think that traitor's here?" "At Quantum." Marta nodded, her gaze unwavering. "Your scientific director, Eric Thompson. He was part of David's team back then. I have proof, emails, encrypted files. He's been leaking Helix data to the same firm that ruined us. My rituals, as you call them, are a cover. I mark surfaces with a tracer compound, invisible but detectable. It's how I track who's been in your office, touching what." Nathan's mind spun. Eric Thompson, the 47-year-old veteran who'd led Quantum's R&D for a decade, was a traitor? The man was a fixture, respected, untouchable. But Marta's words rang with conviction. "Why not come to me directly?" he asked, his voice sharp. "Why the secrecy?" Marta's lips pressed into a thin line. "Because I didn't know if I could trust you. David warned me, trust no one, not even family. He said you were too idealistic, too quick to see the good in people. I had to be sure." The words stung, a knife twisting in Nathan's gut. David's distrust hurt more than he'd expected. "And Emily?" he pressed. "Is she part of this?" Marta hesitated, then shook her head. "I don't think so. She's scared, manipulated. Someone's using her, but it's not Thompson. There's another player, someone higher." Nathan leaned back, his mind a storm of doubt and anger. Marta's story made sense, but it raised more questions. If Thompson was leaking data, why hadn't Nathan seen it? And who was pulling Emily's strings? He needed proof, not just words. "Show me the emails," he said. "Now." Marta reached into her jacket, producing a USB drive. "These are copies. The originals are secure. But be careful, Mr. Reeves. If Thompson knows you're onto him, he'll burn everything." That evening, Nathan and Ethan pored over the files in a locked conference room. The emails were damning, Thompson discussing Helix specs with an alias, Viper, at a rival firm. Dates, figures, even prototype schematics. Nathan's hands shook as he read. "This is real," he whispered. "Eric's been bleeding us dry." Ethan's face was grim. "We fire him. Tonight. Call the cops, let them sort it out." But Nathan hesitated. Firing Thompson would tank Quantum stock, scare investors, and expose the breach to the world. His dream, David's dream, of a cleaner future hung in the balance. "We can't," he said, his voice hollow. "Not yet. If we move too fast, we lose the bigger fish. Marta said there's someone above Thompson. We need to find them." Ethan slammed a fist on the table. "You're gambling with the company, Nate. What if this blows up in our faces?" "Then it's on me," Nathan snapped, standing. "But I'm not letting David's work die because we rushed in. We set a trap for Thompson. Catch him in the act." Ethan's eyes narrowed, but he nodded. "Fine. But if this goes south, don't say I didn't warn you." The plan was simple but risky. Nathan's team planted a fake Helix file on a secure server, accessible only through Thompson's login. Jack Murphy's security crew monitored every keystroke. If Thompson took the bait, they'd trace the data's destination. Nathan barely slept, his dreams haunted by David's face, Marta's warnings, and the weight of his choice. Was he protecting Quantum, or betraying it by playing this game? The next morning, Jack called. "Thompson's on the move," he said, his voice tense. "He accessed the file an hour ago. He's meeting someone tonight, 9 p.m., at a parking garage downtown. We've got eyes on him." Nathan's heart raced. This was it, the chance to catch Thompson red-handed. But Marta's words echoed. There's another player. Who was Viper? And why did Nathan feel like he was walking into a trap? As Nathan and Ethan prepared to tell Thompson, a new text arrived from the unknown number. "Tonight's your last chance. Trust Margaret, or lose everything." Nathan's blood ran cold. The message confirmed Marta's role, but it also meant someone was watching his every move. With time running out, Nathan faced a brutal choice: expose Thompson and risk Quantum's future, or follow Marta's lead into a deeper, darker conspiracy. The moral abyss yawned before him, and there was no turning back. The fog rolled in thick over the city, cloaking the downtown parking garage in a ghostly haze. Nathan Reeves crouched behind a concrete pillar, his breath shallow, his heart hammering against his ribs. Beside him, Ethan Clark checked the feed from Jack Murphy's security team, their earpieces crackling with updates. Eric Thompson, Quantum Innovation's scientific director, was inside, meeting his contact, Viper, the alias behind the Helix data leaks. Nathan's phone buzzed with the latest text: "Trust Margaret, or lose everything." Marta Gray's shadowy presence loomed over this moment, her CIA past and connection to Nathan's brother David tying the threads of this conspiracy together. "Nate, you sure about this?" Ethan whispered, his eyes darting to the garage's entrance. "If Thompson slips, we're screwed. And if Marta's playing us." "She's not," Nathan said, though doubt gnawed at him. Marta's evidence, emails, tracer compounds, had led them here, but her secrecy and cryptic rituals still unsettled them. Yet David's note, "Find Margaret. She knows the way," anchored his resolve. Tonight, they'd end this, or lose everything. Jack's voice cut through the earpiece. "Thompson's on level 3. Black SUV pulled up. One guy, mid-40s, no plates. Looks like our Viper." Nathan's grip tightened on the binoculars. Through the fog, he saw Thompson, his gray hair catching the dim light, hand a flash drive to a man in a tailored coat. The exchange was quick, practiced. "That's it," Nathan hissed. "Jack, move in." "Hold," Jack replied. "We need the handoff confirmed. If we jump too soon, they'll lawyer up." Ethan cursed under his breath. "This is insane. We've got him on camera. Let's end it." But Nathan hesitated. Marta's warning, "There's another player," echoed in his mind. Viper wasn't the mastermind. He was a middleman. If they stopped now, the real threat would vanish into the fog. "Wait," Nathan said. "We need the chain." Before Ethan could argue, Jack's voice crackled again. "Handoff complete. Viper's moving. SFPD's on standby. Say the word, Reeves." "Now," Nathan said, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. The garage erupted into controlled chaos. Unmarked vans screeched in, lights flashing. Officers swarmed the SUV, pinning Viper, revealed as Victor Crane, a known fixer for tech conglomerates. Thompson froze, the flash drive still in his hand, his face pale as police cuffed him. Nathan watched from the shadows, relief warring with dread. They'd caught them, but at what cost? Back at Quantum's headquarters, Nathan and Ethan sat in a locked conference room with Jack and Marta. Thompson's arrest was a victory, but the fallout loomed. News of a data breach could tank Quantum's stock, scare investors, and tarnish David's legacy. Marta, her silver hair glinting under the fluorescent lights, broke the silence. "You did the right thing," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Thompson's been bleeding Helix for years. But Crane's just a cog. The real threat is his client." Nathan's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Marta slid a folder across the table. "Global Tech Solutions. A shadow corp with ties to overseas governments. They've been after quantum catalysts since David's days. Thompson was their inside man, but someone else at Quantum's been feeding them intel." Ethan's face darkened. "Emily Ross. Her offshore deposits." "No," Marta interrupted. "Emily's a pawn. Scared, coerced. The real player's higher up. I don't have a name yet." Nathan's mind raced. Another traitor? He thought of Sarah Wilson, the HR manager who'd fast-tracked Marta's transfer. Was she the link? Or was it someone closer, someone he'd never suspected? The weight of leadership pressed harder, his idealism crumbling under the reality of betrayal. "What's our next move?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Jack leaned forward, his weathered face grim. "We've got Thompson and Crane in custody. SFPD's pulling their communications. But Global Tech is slippery. They'll cut ties, bury evidence. We need a smoking gun. Fast." Marta's eyes met Nathan's. "Let me finish what I started. I've got contacts, old CIA channels. I can trace Global Tech's network. But you need to keep Quantum stable. One wrong move, and they'll exploit the chaos." Nathan nodded, though his gut twisted. Trusting Marta meant leaning into the unknown, but David had trusted her. That had to be enough. "Do it," he said. "But no more secrets, Marta. We're in this together." The next day, Quantum buzzed with hushed rumors. Nathan called an emergency board meeting, his hands steady as he faced the skeptical faces of investors. "We've uncovered a security issue," he said, choosing his words carefully. "It's contained, and we're cooperating with authorities. Project Helix is safe, and we're doubling down on transparency." The room erupted in questions, but Nathan held firm, his resolve forged in the garage's shadows. He wouldn't let fear dictate Quantum's future. Behind the scenes, Jack's team uncovered a bombshell. Sarah Wilson's emails, buried in an encrypted server, linked her to Global Tech. She'd been funneling intel through Thompson, using Emily as a decoy to throw suspicion elsewhere. Nathan confronted Wilson in a private meeting, her polished facade cracking as he laid out the evidence. "You're done," he said, his voice cold. "Cooperate, or face the consequences." Wilson broke, confessing to her role in exchange for leniency. Her testimony, combined with Thompson's and Crane's, unraveled Global Tech's network. Arrests followed, executives, brokers, even a foreign diplomat. The conspiracy was vast, but Nathan's gamble had paid off. That evening, Nathan stood on Quantum's rooftop, the city's lights sparkling below. He dialed David, now in Berlin, his voice trembling as they spoke. "I found them, Dave," Nathan said. "The ones who stole your work. They're gone." David's silence stretched, heavy with years of regret. "You did what I couldn't," he said finally. "I'm sorry I kept you in the dark, Nate. I thought I was protecting you." "You were wrong," Nathan said, his voice firm but kind. "But we're here now. Your work's safe. I'll make sure it stays that way." Hanging up, Nathan felt a weight lift. Marta joined him, her face softened by the twilight. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely audible, "for trusting me." "You earned it," Nathan replied, a faint smile breaking through. "David was right about you." They stood in silence, the city humming below. Quantum would face scrutiny, but Nathan was ready. He transformed from a naive CEO into a leader forged by truth and sacrifice. Marta, now heading internal audits, was no longer a shadow but a partner in protecting David's legacy. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Thompson and his cohorts faced trial, their crimes splashed across headlines. Quantum stock dipped but rebounded as Nathan's transparency won back trust. Emily, cleared of direct involvement, resigned, her guilt a quiet scar. Global Tech's collapse sent ripples through the tech world, a warning to those who'd prey on innovation. Nathan stood taller, his purpose clear. Justice had come at a price, trust, innocence, certainty, but it was worth it. As he looked out over San Francisco, he knew the fight for truth never ended, but he was ready for whatever came next. In a final twist, Jack uncovered a hidden file on Thompson's computer, a personal note from David, warning of Global Tech's reach. It was dated the day David left, a final plea for Nathan to guard his work. Tears stung Nathan's eyes as he read it, the words sealing his transformation. He wasn't just a CEO, he was a guardian of a dream bigger than himself. And with Marta by his side, he'd ensure that dream lived on.